Virtual assistant turned entrepreneur Natalie Guzman defies the corporate world's expectations with an unstoppable drive to be present for her daughter, leading her to create a six-figure agency while revolutionizing the way small business owners navigate the digital landscape. Tune in to hear her tips on how to maximize success with your website and automation.
Welcome to Biz Help for You with host Candy Messer. Entrepreneurs like to focus on the big picture, like profitability, success, and a smooth running organization. But there always seems to be those little things like taxes, employee compensation, laws, regulations, and more. Now you can get the answers you need in one place. Join us today as we break it all down for you. Now, here's your host, Candy Messer.
Hello and welcome to Biz Help for You with Candy Messer. Thank you for joining me today. If you missed my last episode and would like to listen to the show, links can be found on my social media pages as well as multiple favorite podcast platforms. And if you'd like to receive notifications on when my podcasts have been uploaded, please like and subscribe. Now, let me tell you a little bit about my guest today. Natalie Guzman became a virtual assistant in 2015 after her job told her she had 2 days to give birth and then she would have to return to work. She immediately started her virtual assistant business to make money from home on her terms. When she decided to turn her side hustle into an agency, it hit six figures in 3 months. Now, Natalie owns multiple businesses, including a marketing agency and business consulting firm, as well as an all-in-one software for businesses to build websites, emails, automation, and more while raising her family in Southwest Florida. So, Natalie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm happy to have you here too. I, first of all, cannot believe the 2 days before you're supposed to be back at work. That's crazy. When anyone has a baby, it takes way longer than that. So I was surprised to hear that. But before I get into the questions that I have for you, I'd love for you to tell me just a little bit more about yourself and how you started your virtual business.
Yeah, so I am a masshole, as I like to say, and I ended up moving to Florida and I met my husband here, and that's when we started trying for a family. And we actually had a lot of difficulties with starting our family. And so when I finally told my job that I had those 2 days and they told me I had 2 days to give birth, I was flabbergasted. I was like, you're putting my family and myself at risk, because they also knew it was a very hard pregnancy and it was not going to be easy. And my child would most likely have health issues. And sure enough, she was born at 2 pounds. And so I kind of knew, even before she was born, I'd have to find a way to make money from home to support our family, because we were going to have a lot of medical bills that we weren't expecting. And I need something that I could take care of the child, be there for all the doctor's appointments, and then also somehow come up with money to pay for it all. Because my husband had a really, really hard job. He was at the start of his career, and I knew all of his focus really had to be there, and I was going to be that main caretaker for the child. So I wanted to give that child the best life I could. So started looking for ways to make money from home, found being a virtual assistant, and I fell in love, because you could literally do anything and everything. Mm-hmm. And it was something that I'm really good at research. So I could research how to do any of these things that people needed in their business. And then I was able to learn it and actually do it myself. So it was the best fit. I actually got my first client while in labor as a family manager. So that was pretty cool. We also signed for our first house while we were in the delivery room. She was like, I think 8 weeks early. So we were not expecting to go in labor just then. So yeah, so it was a crazy journey, but I fell in love with it. I got really good at it. And then I got really good at teaching other people to be virtual assistants as well.
Nice. Gosh, there's so much to that story that I was just like, wow, and I think too, a lot of people are maybe concerned about starting a business at the time they're having a baby. Like they may not be able to handle everything, or financially, like if I'm going to have to invest. And so you're just saying, well, I need to have something that I can count on. I want to be able to be home with the baby. And if there's some things that are going on medically, so glad it all worked out for you too, because I'm sure that was a scary time.
Oh yeah, for sure. There was so much things that were scaring me at every single point. But one thing with my business, it cost me $0 to be a
Mhm.
virtual assistant. Getting leads and customers, I've never spent a dime on the VA agency getting customers on advertising or anything like that. So I've been very, very blessed to be all organic traffic. And yeah, so I just kind of research any way to do it. I'm one of those thrift store finders. So if I can find a way to do it cheap and free, I'll do it. So it's one of my favorite things.
Perfect. Well, leading up to the topic then we have today, really, we're going to be discussing websites and, different types of marketing that you could be doing through your website too. But some people may be saying, why are you talking about websites? Those are old school. We have social media. So what's your opinion then on having a website?
Oh, you need one. You need one. We've seen it time and time again. So, from my experience being virtual assistant, I've worked in hundreds of businesses. I've been the right-hand woman to hundreds of CEOs and helped so many different businesses in different industries. We have doctors, we have cleaning industry, we have business coaches, everything and anything you can imagine. I've kind of worked in that business in one form or another. And so what we've seen is our website is needed. And the biggest difference between social media and website is that you don't own your followers on
Mhm.
social media. You could
Mhm.
lose your account at any minute. Actually, I just had a friend that lost 100,000 followers on Instagram. She lost her whole account because someone cloned her account and then reported hers as the fake one. And so she lost all that hard work. But she was lucky because she had an email list that she basically took her followers, put them through a funnel on her website that then brought it to the email list. You own your email list, and your email list is actually, if you're doing any type of deals, especially if you're going to ever be an author or something, your email list is so, so, so important, because that's what a lot of companies will ask for, is how big is your email list. If you
Mhm.
ever want your book in like a Barnes and Noble or something, we tell a lot of our clients end up being authors, and we just tell them, you need to work on your email list, because that's the number one thing that they're going to ask for, and that's what they'll base you off of.
Mhm. Well, and I've heard when you're talking email list, I've heard kind of two different sides of that too. Like, yes, you want to build your email list and have those numbers, especially when people are asking, how many do you have on there? I know that's happened before with podcasts too. Someone will say, well, how many people are on your list that you're going to email to? How many people download? Those are always like numbers people are concerned about. Yet at the same time, you want engaged people, right?
Mhm.
So, in your opinion, then how do you kind of juggle that with building a list, but you want to have people who really are interested in the content you have and not just on a list to be a number?
Yeah, you want to give value. So you never want to do an email just like, I know when we think email marketing, I think about those JC Penney emails back in the day that were like big with all the clothes, and very bright and all that. And that's not really what's working anymore, because when they were just showing their products, once they started like featuring collections, then it kind of gave us ideas, or they would have a coupon at the bottom that we would always scroll for, right? That's free value. And that's probably what made me open those emails. But knowing there was a coupon at every single bottom of the email. But we have to remember that we have so much more than just coupons, too. So we can give free tips. We basically think of it as another social media platform. On
Mhm.
Instagram, we're always talking about, tips in our businesses, things you might not know about the industry that we're in. And it's really important to put that into email, to share it, even if and don't make it so complicated and long. You can literally just say, hey, these are my 5 go-to softwares if you're wanting lead generation or something like that, and send that out. And you will be amazed about how many people look at that email and want to know more, especially if you pair it with a freebie. So you say, here are my 5 favorite softwares. If you want to know more about lead generation, here's my free PDF. And so you can keep just giving them more and more value. And it just really builds that trust that they have in you.
Mhm. Well, and I know when people are thinking like, okay, I need to have a website and maybe I'll just go to, a template or, figure out a way to do it inexpensively, especially if they're starting out, they're newer in business, they don't have a lot of money to pay, someone that could do a really nice job on that too. But I know there's some pitfalls to avoid. So can you touch on those for the people who are maybe thinking they have to start on their own first?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things, especially legality wise, that a lot of people are overlooking when creating their own websites. The biggest thing is always the privacy policy and terms and conditions of your website, especially if you're selling on your website. You need to have that. Super, super important. And some website, you want to make sure if you do get a website designer too, that they're putting those on web pages, because we just came across a couple that didn't, and they were really experienced website designers, and they don't put that at the bottom, and you have to. It's really, really important that you have those at the bottom, or at least on your website somewhere. Number two is there's a lot of strategy that goes behind websites. You're telling your story in a systematic way is number one. Number two is your call to action is usually in form of a button, right? It's where the action you want them to take. A lot of times we're putting too many different type of actions, or we're not guiding them towards the one that matters the most. So if you want phone calls, because that's your quickest way to close the client, you should have a call now button or something of that all throughout your website. And it should be big, it should be bold. You can have other buttons, but those should be the main ones. And also sticking to your brand colors. I think there's something really, really important and calming about knowing a brand and its colors. And if you have so many different colors all over your website, it can be really distracting. It can be confusing, overwhelming, unprofessional. So there's a lot of different aspects, but it's so cool all the different things you can do with websites, but just make sure you have a strategy behind it and think about what your viewer would look at, like, are they going to click off in 1 second because your website's too confusing and they can't see the buttons? Probably. So.
Right. Well, what would you say are maybe current trends or like the best practices to take into consideration when planning a website design?
Yeah, so I always tell people you got to start out with your customer journey. It's the most important thing in your business. It's always changing, ever evolving. So you need to make sure that you're also updating your website when those change. But our basic customer journey is usually you have a free offer. That's how you get them on your email list. You have your baby offer. That's something just to get them just to commit, right? To actually put money where their mouth is what I like to say. And then you have your main offer, your main service. And that's really where you want them to end up at the end. And so your website should kind of show that your first step is that freebie, right? So you want to make sure that freebie is not at the bottom in the footer. I've seen that so many times where people put their free offer either in a pop-up that doesn't show until you exit, or they put it at the bottom of their page. You want that actually towards the top. And because it's the first action that you want them taking the customer journey. And then you could have, all your different steps throughout your website, of course, but you just really want to think the strategy behind it. Where do you want them to go first? Sometimes it's a free discovery call, right? Or a consultation call. So you want to make sure you may even want just your calendar embedded onto the main part of your website. You can do it so it looks pretty too, but sometimes that's just the easiest way. The least amount of buttons that they have to take action, the better.
Well, and I think too, sometimes people want to put so much information, right? So they know about their company. We offer like all of these things, but then it become overwhelming and you don't even want to read it, right? So I would think having a little bit less content is probably better, but what is your experience with helping those who are trying to get out the word of what they do, but not have it so much text?
Put it into a video. This is actually the highest converting thing we're seeing right now. Don't do animation videos. Those are actually tanking right now from our studies and tests. And so we've seen that just a video of whoever, it could be you, it could be someone you hire or someone on your team, just explaining who the company is, what are your values, what are your goals, how do you help people, basically elevator pitch, but you can add a lot more content into it and it not be overwhelming. We try to keep them really under 3 minutes, to under 2 is ideal. And there's just, especially nowadays, we have platforms that are really seeing a lot of success, like TikTok and Instagram with the short form videos, and even YouTube Shorts now is climbing. And that is because people just want to connect with real life human beings. And so having a video of someone just explaining what you guys do is very, very impactful.
Well, and I know some people, again, maybe are thinking they can do this on their own. And of course, there's some who will work with designers. So if there is someone who's maybe starting out, they need to have a website, but they don't have a large budget. Can you maybe give a couple tips on a few things maybe they can do to create one to start now, and then they can build into something better, in the future?
Yeah. So you want to, I think the most important thing is finding a hosting platform. So wherever you're going to be building this website, make sure it's really good with SEO is really important, because when you do want to upgrade in the future, your designer might have to move you to a different platform, which can cause a lot of different issues because they're trying to improve your SEO. So some of the ones I see a lot is like Wix. People are always building websites on Wix. It's actually not great for SEO purposes. It's really hard for the back end to, especially with Google and syncing it. There's a lot of technology that goes into it. So the first thing is just researching some of those. We use Nadora, which is actually my company. So it is, you can create unlimited websites. You can do email automations, email marketing, text skimmings, so much on it. And it is amazing because it's also syncs with WordPress. But we've used that because it just makes it so simple. So we have templates that a lot of our clients will use, and they'll design their own websites. And it's just, you just want to keep in mind, the customer journey, the logos, the privacy policy that I mentioned, and just really thinking about your target market. Don't ask people who are not your target market what they think of the website. Only ask your target market. This is my biggest pet peeve, which is why it was so hard for me to get out, because we are asking for opinions from other business owners sometimes, and they have a whole other target market than you do sometimes. So you want to be really picky on who you're asking for opinion and what you're taking as advice, because you will get led astray really easily.
Well, or probably asking friends and family too, right? You think you could go ask your spouse or your children or your parents or something. What do you think? Right. And you're right. Like, they're going to probably say it looks great, even if it doesn't, just because they're your family too. Right. Oh, goodness. I do know what my husband, when I first started my business, I actually didn't have a website either. And I thought, well, I don't need to have a lot of clients, and, that would be a lot of work. Well, he decided to surprise me one day and put together a website, and it was nice, to start. And then somebody ended up telling me, I don't know how they found it, but they said that my website had literally been copied, like word for word, like everything that was in there, the images, everything except for like their company, which was very similar to my name too. And so I was like, I have to just do a whole new website. And that point is when I finally got a designer to help and actually do one for my company specifically, and not just like a template. But I was like so mad that somebody had literally taken everything that we did and copied it. So that's how I got into actually working with someone else and having them actually ask me, like, what is it that you want? Right. And figuring out colors and fonts and things like that. And for me, and some people may feel the same way, sometimes it feels overwhelming to have to figure all of that out. So for me, I think it was really helpful to have like 3 designs presented to me, and which one do you like better? Right. Or the fonts, which do you like better? The colors, which do you like better? And that's how we first came up with like what I had. And then over the years, I've now been in business, like I said, since 2002. So I've had multiple, revisions to the website. But for me, it's helpful to have someone who's very good at all of that come up with the ideas and then show them to me. And then I can say, this is what's helpful for me to determine what I need.
And it saves so much time too. Think about if you ever designed a website, how much time it takes. If you can hire that out to someone that understands all the different strategies, buttons, we do a lot of coding in our business. And so that's something that also the difference between a designer and someone just trying to do it for their own business is that a lot of times you can't get like the animations, or you can't get your Google reviews embedded and things like that because you need to understand code. And so especially if you want something that's a little bit more high tech, getting a designer is definitely the way to go. And when you're talking about, you mentioned that they helped you with like your colors, your fonts and all that. So those are 2 different things. So you can always hire out, I call it brand board. So that's when someone helps you get your logo, your fonts, your colors, and they kind of all sync. That's where I would always start with, because then we build your website based on that. So you could always, even if you're just thinking, a lot of designers even have monthly plans and things like that. Sometimes they're not as expensive depending on what you need. So definitely shop around on price. But start with a brand board. You probably get that for under $100, and they can help you create the logo. They'll give you usually 2 to 3 variations. They'll give you fonts, everything.
Hmm. And that's what I had done. I was working with a company that wasn't just website design. They were actually a marketing company, and they were helping me create the original logo and what do you like. And, for me, I was saying for the business that I'm in, it's finance, and, you have to have this professional image. It can't be, these kind of colors that maybe I would like, but it's like what is going to represent the industry and be considered professional and classic and that kind of thing. That's how I came up with kind of my colors and the fonts, but they actually came up with quite a few different aspects of that for me, and then they were able to put it into a website design. So I think too, like you said, instead of just going to maybe someone who just does web design and is going to expect you to have all of these things together, working with a company that does all of that is really helpful too, at least from my perspective of how I came. And I'm good at the numbers and the logic and stuff, but coming up with creative stuff like that, not my strength.
Yeah. And there's a couple more aspects that kind of go into the back end of the business. You also have automations and email marketing text campaigns. And there's so many laws that just passed also. So you want to actually probably, if you're going to do text campaigns and automations, really talk to an expert. But yeah, that's why we kind of created our business. We were doing, as a virtual assistant agency, we were doing so much website design, automations. We were learning all these things. We were learning all the laws because we have to protect our clients, And so we kind of developed this section of the software companies, Nadora, and then Nadora has marketing mavens, which is a team of marketing virtual assistants to kind of help you set everything up. So we just really want to make it that one-stop shop. So not only do you have one software, you don't have to pay for 6 softwares at once, but you also have a team that knows how to use that software and hundreds of others. If you don't use ours, we worked in so many different platforms, and then we're able to guide you because we've done it for hundreds of industries over the last 5 years.
Right. Well, and you did mention automation. I think that's important for everyone to understand that there are some things that can make it easier for you to keep up on everything. So do you want to touch on maybe some of those things you recommend for a small business owner that will make their lives a little bit easier?
Yeah, of course, it depends on what kind of software you're using and what automations they have already built in. But if you have a website, so one of the simplest automations is going to be if you have a freebie, they're going to fill out a form on your website. You need to have an automation where it sends them a thank you email for downloading, for, claiming that freebie. And then also follow-up emails for that lead generation, right? The nurture sequence, as I like to call it, where it just really gets them familiar with who you are, what you do, and then eventually sells them via email as well. And then I also love, my favorite one is the internal notification. So anytime we get any lead comes into our system, me and my team, we get a text that says, you guys are rock stars, you're amazing. Then this person just got this freebie or just became a client. And it's the coolest feeling because you get to see your work is working, and it just kind of gives you that boost, that even in the background, things are running and they're moving forward, and it's just a really cool feeling. So those are some of my favorites, but you can do, if you're having it like a discovery call, you can do calendar reminders, you can do reminders via text, via email. You can set it 24 hours or 1 week notice or whatnot, and just really set all those up in place. And then I always try to funnel someone into a nurture sequence, depending on what type of lead they are.
Right. So if someone has a freebie on a landing page on their website, right, download this PDF. Is the automation like a software they have to pair with their website? Can the website actually handle all of that automation and say, great, you ordered this, here's the email, and set up that nurturing sequence? How does that work for somebody?
Yeah, it depends what you're using. That's why we love Nadora, because it's all included. You can set up everything within Nadora, whereas a lot of people are using like MailChimp, and they're using ActiveCampaign. They're using Kajabi for courses. Nadora, you can do courses too. I didn't even mention that. But you have these 3 different platforms, right? And none of them sync together. So then you need to get Zapier, which is a automation zap that connects them all together. So it can get really, really complicated and confusing. And if you are really want to use 3 different platforms, and you are going to probably have to pay for Zapier, but you can hire like an assistant on Fiverr, Upwork to set it up for you, because it can be complicated. I say don't waste time doing Zapier unless you love it. It can be really complicated.
Well, it's the same for anything, right? If you're not good at it, you don't want to do it, pay for someone else. It will probably save you time and resources anyway, right? Because if you spend 5 hours doing it, but you could pay somebody an hour to do it, it's worth it, right? So many things to think about. So is there anything else in terms of like the website that I didn't think to ask that you want to, give that information to our listener?
I think, oh yeah, one thing that I love is a good thank you page, because you can always upsell on a thank you page. So if they do get your freebie, you can put your next step right into that thank you page. Just really think about the unlimited possibilities, and you don't have to stick to a home about us and contact us page. If you want to have just like a whole photo, I've seen these really cool websites that just have a whole bunch of photos of what they do on a daily basis. And it's the coolest thing ever, because if I really want to see like what type of equipment they have or how they do this, I can just look through all the pictures. And they did it in a way that was just so calming and full of information and no text whatsoever. And so you can get really creative. You don't have to be like everyone else, but you just want to make sure it's something that your target market is going to connect with.
Right. And I think we just want to touch on, and I know you were talking about different rules and regulations now too, but we were talking earlier too about building your email list and things like that too. But, don't add someone to your email list just because you got their email, right? Do you want to touch on that too? Because that still happens. I get them all the time. I'm like, I guess they don't know what the rules are.
Yeah, you need opt-in. And then with text, you need a double opt-in. So it's actually the law, so be very, very careful. So so basically that form we were talking about where they download the freebie, you want to make sure there's some sort of term or even a checkbox saying that they're okay being added to the email list and they're okay being contacted. That's really, really important. And that's just for emails. With phones, you want that same message. And then the first text they receive, it needs to say, hey, you're all subscribed to this, to, whatever your business is, SMS messages. If you want to opt out at any time, reply stop. You need to have that as the very first message you send.
Interesting. Yeah, so much to think about, and you don't always know all the rules. And especially if you are like a global business or something too, or located in another, country than the United States, we have rules, they have different rules. So keeping track of all those rules, I think, can be quite overwhelming as well.
Yeah, they're definitely trying to. So some of the rules that were just passed were ones that were related to other countries. So now that online business is such a big thing, I think eventually all the countries will kind of be on the same page, at least when it comes to email and text campaigns. But we're definitely seeing a shift in all those rules. But you can always Google them if you're not sure what they are, and it does pop up pretty quickly.
Well, I would like to ask if you have any offer that you would like to extend to our listeners, and also if they want more information, how can they connect with you?
Sure. So we do. We have a 2-week free offer to Nadora. It is that amazing platform where you can create your whole back end of your business. So your websites, your email campaigns, your text messages, and all that and more. It is so much fun. We have really great community and education portion to it as well. And so you can find that at nadora.org. And if you just want to reach out to me, I'm on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook the most. And it's just search it's Natalie Guzman, ITS Natalie Guzman.
Okay. And do you want to spell the information for the company part just to make sure someone gets there?
Sure. Nadora is NADORA.org.
Perfect. And .org, not .com.
Yeah.
Perfect. It's so important because one little typo and you don't get where you want. So I always want to make sure that when people are listening, especially, that we can share that for them. So if needed, they can get to the right spot and not have to worry about seeing it as well. So, but thank you, Natalie, for being a guest on my show and talking about this. I know sometimes people think websites aren't necessary any longer, but today just having this discussion, I think, helps express why they still are important and some of the things maybe to do.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, listeners, for tuning in today. I hope you found this topic interesting and enjoyed the informative discussion. Would you please share my show with those you know and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform? I'd really appreciate your support. If you have any additional questions or comments, be sure to reach out to my guest at any of the links that they shared, or you could send me a message at media@abandp.com. I hope you can join me for my next interview, and remember, you can connect with me on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and my website is abandp.com. This episode is sponsored by Affordable Bookkeeping and Payroll Services. If you are overwhelmed trying to handle the financial aspects of your business, AB&P is here to help. Contact us today to discuss your needs at 310-534-5577 or contact@abandp.com. My team and I are eager to assist you. Until next time, have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help for You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next time. Have a terrific day.